So when it comes to Avram Avinu, one of the things that the Torah says about Avram Avinu is it says Va'avraham Zakein Bayamim. Right? And literally, and Avram was old, elderly, literally coming in days or coming of days. Right? And yeah, that's like a nice poetic, descriptive way of saying things. We're using different words and, to make it sound nice. He was old and coming of days. But again, this is a pasuk in Torah, which means that if it says those two things, it says both of them for a reason. So Zaken and Ba Bayomim are two different things, and they don't necessarily go hand in hand, right? And this is what the sages tell us is a message here, that sometimes a person can be Zaken, can be old. Now when you picture someone old,
sorry, what's that letter at the beginning of the
yes, I noticed when I wrote it, but it's an aleph, Va'avraham, and Avraham. Is that better? So on that note, my mother a few years ago, relatively recently, found all my school reports. I don't know, found them or just decided to share them. She sent me all my reports, so I have all my reports from school, from like when I was a little kid. I haven't even gone through all of them, but I read through like the first few years, and basically every 6 months for like several years, the report said the exact same thing, which is not all of it's relevant, but Shirley, that's the name that's what I was called as a kid. Shirley is, doing well and blah, 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 and capable. He, has some things that he could work on cooperating with other students and trying harder, putting in more effort, and improving his handwriting. Every single time, that was always in there, and improving his handwriting. And if I get a report now, it'll still say that I could work on improving my handwriting, but it is what it is. I can handle that. So when you picture someone, if I would say, oh, that person's old, what comes to mind immediately? Gray hair, wrinkles, low energy, frail. Right? So old is a description of the person. And then Ba Bayomim refers not so much to the person, but to their relationship with time, to the passage of time. You could have someone who's old at a very young age. I mean, some people go white very young. There are some families where people have a full head of white hair at 30 years old. Some people can be very wise when they're young. There are different things that we associate with older people that some people could have when they're young. Right? So a person can be old at an early age. A person can, let's say, seem like a 90-year-old when they're 50, but a person can't be 90 years old without having been alive for 90 years. Right? So Ba Bayomim, coming of days, means it's not about the person, it's about the relationship with the days. So he was old and coming of days, or coming, Ba Bayomim, literally coming in days. Now, in the context of the life of a person who's dedicated to realizing our purpose, realizing the purpose of our existence, realizing the purpose of the existence of the universe, fulfilling that with which Hashem charged us, the responsibility, the obligation, the opportunity, the privilege, all of the above. These two terms can refer to two different very big parts of what we're here to do, why we're here. Right now, there are obviously a lot of things that we're here to do, but we could break it down, let's say, into two categories. And it's not only two categories of things, it's two categories of mission and purpose. And in general, more or less, all the things we do have a foot on each side of this fence. Generally, all the things we do play a part in both, but we can choose to really focus on one more than the other. Right? So part of what we're here to do is to become a more spiritually enlightened, integrated person, a more spiritually oriented person Right? Let's call it personal development. Personal development according to Torah. And it's a very important part of what we're here, of why we're here. To work on ourselves, to work on our character traits, to work to overcome challenges, to become more resilient, to become more focused, to become more clear, to become more spiritually oriented, etc. And then there is the part of our purpose, which is the impact that we have on the world. Which is that we are here to be a vehicle and an ambassador to integrate godliness into the world around us, to integrate divinity into the world around us. We're not just here to improve ourselves. If we were, we could have just existed spiritually and worked on our spiritual progress as spiritual entities without physical bodies in a physical world. We are here to, through the thoughts that we think, the words that we speak, and the things that we do, our interactions with the world around us, our interactions with the people around us, our interactions with community, etc., to integrate divinity, godliness, infinity into the world around us. And so this old and coming of or in days refer to these two things. Zokein, old, is about the person, the condition, the status of the person. So when we say Avram Zokein, Avram was an old person. He was wise. He had accumulated a lifetime of experience, of facing and overcoming challenges, of working hard, of doing the best he could to recognize the truth in a way that no one else ever had, of being a good person and always becoming a better person every day. So that's the Zokin. He was old. He had all of these positive characteristics that a person can continue to accumulate over the course of their life. Right? And when we picture someone who's old, there are a few, perhaps, let's say, genres of things that could be coming to mind. Some of them are going to be visual, some of them are going to be emotional. And a lot of times, if someone's lucky enough to have, to have met or known a person who's like this, who's this, archetypal, like old, wise person, someone who you go to for insight, to hear stories, for advice, as a sounding board. Why? Because this person has had a whole lifetime of learning, of seeing things, of understanding things more and more and more and more deeply and more and more and more complexly, and being able to accumulate layers and layers and layers and layers of depth and complexity of understanding and insight, wisdom. Right? So Avraham Avinu was this, he was old. Old refers to the state of the person. See, he had worked on himself, developed himself. He was a person who had already done a lifetime of work and growth and development. Old.